There is a link now in the chat for the new version of the platform that I'm going to show you right now. So let me share my screen. You can just access it and follow my talk doing the same thing, or just listen to what I have to say, and then you can try it on your own time. It doesn't really matter. Here we go. So you should be able to see now the landing page of the website. So of course you have to create an account, which is free. You just need to enter an email address and a password, and you will be connected to the platform. So in this platform, we gather most of the results of the NewsEye project since 3 years, and it's the main entry point to search and interact with those search results. I will just start by a simple search, which is something that you find often in digital libraries, a way to look for information into the newspaper collections. So I can try to enter some query. The queries can just be keywords that you are interested in, or they can be more complex queries, but this needs to be documented a little bit better. So just a simple query, for example, something that I actually tested this morning before. So it's just my last name, Caurant, which is not very common in France. And I actually found some nice information. I will show you that. But you can see here the result page after you make a search. You have quite typically the articles that are displayed in the form of a list, where the first one is the more relevant towards the keywords of your query. Of course, this relevancy is very dependent on the search system that is behind everything. In this case, this is Apache Solar. And the articles basically are very relevant to your keywords. If they contain all of them, and if the article is very short, then the article will be very, very relevant to your query. That's why you often get quite short articles at the beginning of your results. So you have the list of results, as I said. You can also see on the upper left corner a graph of the dates frequencies of your results. And if you click on the small plus there, you should be able to get these. It doesn't seem to be working right now, but you can just get how to say a zoomed view of this graph. But this should be working, and it isn't. I'm not sure why, but whatever, that's okay. You can filter all your results using typical metadata. So for example, the language of the newspaper you are interested in. So for my case, let's just speak French, because I'm French, and there's a lot of chance that if I find information on my name, it will be in French newspapers, of course. So it's filtering right now. And you can, of course, limit and filter the results using also the publication date of the newspapers, the month the newspaper were published, or the day of the week. And you can also, which is interesting, is filter filter your results using named entities. So it's a bit more complex in the sense that in a single article, the process of finding named entities we can find a lot of mentions of named entities, but it's not always easy to link those mentions to a database, knowledge base, Wikidata. We are using Wikidata. And here on the filtering part, on the filtering here using named entities, you can only filter the articles that contain mention of entities that are linked to a knowledge base. This is just to limit the number of filters that will appear there, because if we list here all the mentions of named entities and not only the ones that are linked, there will be a lot of noise. Also a lot of not very good and not very meaningful entities that have been found by our system but are not really useful. But having them linked is just another it's another tip that the entity is of good quality, basically. So you can filter the results of your search using a person, a location, of course, organization, and human production. And when you click on an article, let me try to click on the first one or the second one, just to try it. You will be sent to the actual page of which will allow you to visualize the newspaper in its context and view this article in the context of the page of the newspaper. It seems to be a bit slow right now because I guess several of you are trying to use the platform at the same time, which is okay, but it's still slower than I expected. We'll see. There is a lot of optimizations that need to be done, I guess. But let's just wait a few seconds that the page appear. And maybe what I, yeah, here it is. So this is the article that I've clicked on there. Is the one that is selected. As you can see, and as you could tell from the previous talk, article separation is a hard task. And so we have a lot of results that are not very good. But in this case, for example, this is a table, and this is something that is obviously very difficult for the article separation to extract. But otherwise, you can see that most of the text blocks are quite fine. And there. So in this page, on this page, you can also see the named entities that are inside the entire issue, this entire issue of La Presse, which is a French newspaper. And you can see all the, in this case, not only the linked entities. So for example, here you can see all the mentions that have been linked to Paris, the city Paris. Here, the city London, it's all the mention of Londres, which is the French for London, and so on. And we have also here a number of locations that haven't been linked. The algorithm we used was not able to link them to a particular entry in Wikidata, so they just appear under the label unlinked mention. But still, we know that these are named entities, so this information could still be useful. You get, of course, some metadata about your article, about the entire issue, excuse me. And when you select an article, you can, of course, switch the selection there, and you get the full text, the extracted text of the article. And maybe while we are there, I can show you one of the feature that we have been added to that have been added to the platform, especially to counteract the medium quality and sometimes bad quality of the article separation. So for example, you see there that this seems to be an article. Everything there should be gathered together, but it's not. We only have text blocked in this case. And one way of creating a single article from those text block is using the compound article creation, which is a mode that you can activate by clicking on the small switch there. And once you are in this compound mode, you can select the different parts of the articles that you want to merge, basically. So here I will select all of these parts and click on the create button, which should open but does not open a modal window. I'm not sure what's happening. It was working before. Maybe it's just the fact that multiple people are using. Oh, okay, here it is. It was just slow. And you can see the overview basically of the compound article that you want to create. This is the different parts that you have clicked on, and you can give it a title. Let's just call it compound article for now. And it's creating it. As you can see, it's added. The overlay should move, but that's okay. The compound article that you have just created is then added to a list on the upper left corner of the window. And in this list, you can see all the compound articles that you have created for this particular issue. Let me just refresh the page so that I don't have this overlay anymore. And when you click now on the compound article that you have just created, it should highlight basically the compound that you have created. So it was not on the first page. I think it was on the third one or fourth one. I don't remember. Yeah, it was on the last page. So this is something that I should add, that when you click on an article, it switch to the good page, but there are a lot of things to improve. And you can see that the compound article that you created is now there, which can be interesting. And maybe what I can show you now is the ability to create data sets. So this was the main part of this talk, basically. So data sets, you can just go to this page, data sets there, and you will see your created data sets. Of course, there won't be any at first, but you can create a new data set there by giving it the name that you want. And basically, a data set is just a collection of articles or compound articles that you want to gather, maybe to make to create some search corpora that you are interested in. And let me go back to the previous page, and I can show you how to add documents to particular data sets. So here I have selected the compound article I just created, and I can then select here the dataset I'm currently working on. So I will just select the dataset I just created, which is called my datasets, and right now it contains no documents because I just created it. And now that this selected compound article is selected, you can see that there is an add selected compound article button right under there, which does not appear anymore if you don't have a compound article selected at the moment. So I will select this compound article and add it to the dataset I just created. Of course, you can also add single articles to a dataset. So, for example, if I select, I don't know, it's not a very good article per se, but let's just select this one article, and I can add this the selected article to my dataset. And if we go back to the dataset page, we can see that my dataset now have one article and one compound article. And if you click on it, you can actually see here the list of all the articles your dataset contains, but also the compound articles. And if you click on it, you will get back to the page where the article has been created. And the same way, if you click on the article, you will go back to the newspaper page of your article. Another place where you can add some articles to a dataset is the search page. So, for example, this is a search. This search is trying to find the two words bataille and somme at a maximum distance of 3 words. So we try to basically gather articles that contains those two terms quite close to each other. And you can see that I can select individual articles there and add the selected documents to my datasets there. So it's been done. But I can also, if I want, add every document of a search to a dataset by clicking the Add All Documents. I can try it. And you can see that 508 documents have been added to my datasets, and there were already 3 documents that existed inside. And again, you can go to my dataset there to see all the articles that you have added to your datasets. You can switch pages. You can also sort them either by the default, which is the order in which they were added to the dataset, or by date, whether ascending or descending publication date. You can delete individual articles by just selecting articles there and click on the delete buttons. Something that is interesting is the ability to set the sharing status of a dataset. So for example, right now you see that this dataset is private, but I can set it to public. And by doing so, any of you can try it now. If you go to the dataset page and click on public datasets, you will be able to see the dataset I've just created. Right now, I cannot see it myself because it's tied to my user account, so it doesn't make sense to see it. But as you can see, I can see now 2 public datasets that were created by Sarah. And if I want to basically integrate these datasets in my workspace, I can just click the button import to your datasets. I'm going to give it a name, whatever it is. And when I click on import, it will just copy every single articles from the dataset that Sarah created to a new dataset in my workspace. And in the same way as before, I can click on it. I can modify it, which of course won't modify the dataset Sarah created. This is just a copy that I'm working on. But yeah, you can do stuff like that. You can see that I have set up this dataset, which has been actually built by Sarah also, I think. This is the Spanish flu dataset. So a dataset on gathering articles about the Spanish flu at the beginning of the century. And what I can show you now is the ability to export datasets, which will be useful in the next talk by Sarah and Eva. And you can export this dataset right now in 2 formats, but I need to add other formats such as CSV, for example, which could be useful for some people. But you can export this format. If you export the format as a zip file, you will basically get a repository with individual text file for every articles in your dataset. And if you want a more thorough export, I suggest to use the Json Export. You can see that it creates here a small link that you can click to download this Json Export. And I can show you what it looks like by opening it. And I need just a few, I just need to stop sharing this and share the screen with the export. There it is. And this looks like this. For every single article, you have the ID of the article, the language it was published in, the date of publication, the newspaper it came from, a IIIF URL, which allow you basically to get the URL of the image of the article, which could be useful if you want to build some kind of interface or whatever you want to do. And of course, the full text of the article that is there. And when documents have named entities, the list of the named entities will also be displayed there. So for example, I have another export there, and you can see that we have some named entities associated with this particular article. And those named entities contains the mention of the term, which is we can find in the text, as you can see, the text of the article. And in some case, where it's possible, a link to a knowledge base. And so using these JSON exports, you can improve, or you can work basically outside of the platform using the tools that you are familiar with, which some of them will be presented by Eva and Sarah. Let me just share again my screen. Yeah, there it is. And that's it basically for the exports. And maybe one last thing I can show you is the ability to make some kind of analysis and analyze the dataset that you have created directly on the platform without the use of external tools. But of course, there is some limits because it's very difficult to integrate all the use case of all possible users that would like to analyze or compute statistics on their corpora and so on. So right now, it's essentially a proof of concept. As you can see, I will create an experiment, which is just basically an empty canvas on which you can put tools and boxes and connect them to create some kind of workflow that you can then run and get results from. But again, this is very it's a proof of concept, so there are not much tools available. It's not possible right now to export the data computed by the tools and so on, but all of this is something that we would like to do. So I can show you. I will just put a box which represents my source, the data, basically. So here it's a source dataset. So I would like to select a dataset that I have previously created. So I will click the configure button there and select the dataset that I want to analyze, basically. So for example, let's analyze the dataset on the Spanish flu in English. So I just apply. And now you can see that this box is now configured. So it's ready to be run, basically. And what this box does is it just basically gets all the data back in the context of the experiment. So it just queries the index to get the text and the metadata of the articles and inside the datasets I've configured. And it just stores it there in the context of the experiment. It's to avoid having to requery again the index every time you run the experiment. So what I can now do is add, as you can see, I was on the source tab there. I added the source dataset. I can go on the processors tab and add some kind of pre-processing of the text of the articles inside my dataset. And if I go to configure it, you can see that I have different options. I can remove the punctuation, remove some stop words, remove the numbers, turn everything to lowercase. And of course, this could be improved, that we could find new ways of filtering this. Maybe we could add some kind of regular expression inputs that the user can use to manually filter some stuff in the articles. It could be useful. There are a lot of possible use cases. Again, this box shows now that this box is configured. This tool is configured and it's ready to run. And I will finally end this with adding just an Engram extractor. So the engrams, for those who are not familiar with it, is just a list of n words that follow each other. So for example, the phrase, this project is called NewsEye. If you are looking into bigrams, so n equal 2, you will have this project is called NewsEye. You will have a list of 2 words, basically, a list of sets of 2 words that just give this information. And you can configure these engrams, basically, either to set the n to 2, and so this will make the result that I just told you. Let's do that. And I can also add another one, and this time I will configure n to be equal to 3, just to have trigrams and see what it does. And once you have configured everything in your experiment, you can just click the Run Experiment button, and it will just process everything from the top to the bottom. And as you can see, everything is finished now, and we can see the results by clicking this blue button on boxes. So for example, if I click on the blue button for the source dataset, I just have a link to access the original dataset. But if I click on the blue button for the engrams, which was actually the bigrams there, you can see that red cross was the most frequent bigram, care committee, and then you have some information like that, which can be important and which can be useful to just qualify your corpora and make some kind of experiments. And if we look at the trigrams, you can see that we have trigrams. Of course, there is a way to add a lot of possible tools. One that I'm currently looking into is the ability to create topic models, to train topic model on individual datasets, basically. And of course, then there should be some kind of way to either query this topic model to get information back, again, export the various results that you get during your experiments, because it's not doing any good sitting on the platform, of course. If you want to publish them or if you want to use them in your search, you should be able to export them. But this is basically the future of this platform. I think I have talked about everything kind of. So I'm gonna stop sharing, and I'm ready to answer some question if you have. Otherwise, please feel free to try this platform. Again, it's still a work in progress, and there may be some bugs. It may be slow, but please try it.